In this training, we're going to talk about designing your 1-hour telephone consultation. This is ideally a consultation that you will be doing with your clients that will last an hour. You might choose 75 minutes or 90 minutes, or you might even choose 45 minutes. But we're gonna hone in on an hour. That's kind of the sweet spot. And the reason why we do 1-hour telephone consultations as we are publishing information products is because I believe it is the fastest, most direct, and most powerful way to get in touch with the needs of your audience. It's also the fastest, most amazing way there is to target your niche, identify the specific pain points, the specific desires, and the specific needs of your customer, and the ultimate way to find the exact words and phrases and concepts to use inside of your marketing and inside of your products. A lot of people that get into the information product publishing business have an idealized view. They think they're just going to write a book and they're going to put it on the market and they're going to start selling it, and the world is going to line up to buy it from them. Or they think they're going to create a little video and then everyone's going to buy it. And the mistake that most publishers and authors make when they take this approach is that they're saying things that don't really strike a chord in the customer. They don't emotionally motivate a customer. They don't hit the nail on the head of the customer's needs. And the reason why this is because most of us think that we understand other people much better than we really do. Most of us think that we really get it, and we really get the world, and we really get other people and psychology and motivation a lot better than we really do. So we project our stuff out there. We imagine that what we have to say is very important, and this is what leads to most books that are published going on to sell hardly any copies, and very few, very small percentage, probably 1% or less, go on to actually become bestsellers. And these are mainstream books that are published by big publishers, never mind all the little self-published books or the information products that are published online. So we're going to use the idea of doing 1-hour personal one-on-one consultations, not really just to make money, although making money is an important part of it, especially if you're starting out, because this can actually fuel your business and it can allow you to pay your bills. But we're going to use it to do paid market research. Now you're going to notice that the format and the concepts that I'm going to teach you here for doing your 1-hour paid telephone consultation, they kind of dovetail and line up perfectly with the other ideas that you've been learning about creating a unique selling proposition, or about doing a sales presentation and then turning that into your marketing. And what I want you to see is that these are all variations of each other, and they're all variations on a very simple theme, which is get inside the head of your customer. See what things are like from their perspective. Understand how they're feeling. Understand the words that they're using. Understand the thoughts that they're thinking. And once you understand all of those things, then you can match what it is that you offer to their needs. And the more customers you talk to, the more customers you interact with, the more customers you interview, and very importantly, the more customers that you do paid consultations with, the more you will train yourself, and you'll train your intuition, and you'll give yourself a great education that'll pay off huge in the long run. By the way, if you're just starting out in information products and you're just getting off the ground and you need to figure out how to pay the bills, I think that there's no better way to pay the bills than to use this method that I'm going to show you right now, which is doing paid 1-hour telephone consultations. The personal coaching industry is exploding. Most people now are familiar with paying for the service of having advice or coaching over the telephone. It's not as weird or unusual as it was just 10 or 20 years ago, so it's becoming much more commonly accepted. And it allows you, like I said, to get the extra bonus of doing paid research and paid advice. Now I recommend when you're starting out, if you're going to do a 1-hour consultation, to charge $97 to start, 97 bucks. And that's a price point that's based on a lot of different tests and experiences and me working with a lot of different people. And my perspective is that if you can't sell your audience a live 1-hour coaching session for $97, then you're probably going to have a hard time selling them a book for 20 or 40 bucks, or an audio program for $100 or $200, or a video program for a couple or a few $100, or a live seminar. And I really believe that if you can't sell one of your prospective customers a 1-hour live coaching consultation with you personally, then you're probably going to have a hard time selling those prospects, or that same prospect, a $20 or a $40 ebook, or a $50 or $100 audio program, or $100 or $200 video program, or a $500 seminar, or anything in between or beyond. So if you can't, in other words, if you can't get a person to buy something for $100 from you over the telephone, then you're probably in a marketplace that is not very responsive. So it's a great test in that way as well. So we talked in an earlier training about how to sell and how to find the needs of a customer, and then how to match your benefits to those needs. If you haven't seen that training, make sure and go back and watch it. And in this training, we're going to talk about how to take that same idea and expand it into an actual consultation, and how to format that consultation. Now, the first thing that most people do when they approach something like this is they think, well, if I get on the phone with someone for an hour, they're going to expect me to just be telling them stuff for that entire hour. And in fact, that's the way that most consultations over the telephone happen. Most coaches, most consultants, most people that try to help other people in this fashion, they get on the phone and they feel very self-conscious, so they feel like they have to tell them a lot of stuff, and now I got to give them $100 worth of value, so I got to tell them everything that I've ever learned. Well, this actually turns out to be counterproductive, because until your prospect feels understood, and until you understand their specific needs, they're not even going to hear you. And in fact, if you give them a lot of information, they're just going to feel overwhelmed, and they're going to feel like what you have to tell them isn't that relevant. And you're going to leave with that feeling of, oh, they didn't really get it, or they didn't really find value in what I was teaching. So the key here, and it's very important that you understand this point, is that when you're doing a consultation with one of your customers, that most of the consultation should be spent understanding the needs of your customer. A minimum of half the time, your customer should be doing the talking. Okay? Probably for 80% of the first half at least, and probably 20 or 30% of the second half, your customer should be doing the talking. What should they be talking about? Well, they should be talking about their needs. If you really think about it, think back to a problem that you've had recently where you maybe it started sneaking up on you, and you finally became aware of a problem that you had in your life. Maybe your car wasn't running that well, or maybe you had a health issue, or maybe there was a problem with a relationship you had in your life. As it became more apparent that you really had a problem, what happened inside of you? Well, probably at first you were a little bit in denial. You probably didn't even look at it. You didn't want to face it. And then it probably got worse and worse and worse until you had to kind of look at it. And then after you looked at it, you probably said to yourself, okay, I understand what's going on here. I know what needs to be done. And then you probably tried something to fix it or put a Band-Aid on it, and then that probably didn't work. And then ultimately, if you solved the problem, you went and had to take some kind of major radical action to transform the situation, something that wasn't really apparent early on in that problem. That's kind of the cycle that we humans go through when we have challenges and when we have problems in our lives. So when you're talking to your customer about their problem, you have to realize that in most cases, they're probably still in that phase where they're just realizing how much of a problem they have. They're probably in denial about what it really means and what they're going to have to do to solve it. And they're also probably not really over the hump yet where they're committed to doing whatever it takes to get the problem solved. Another little side note is they probably also think that they know what the problem is, and they think that they know what the solution is. I once heard someone say that people don't go to therapists to fix their problems. They don't go to therapists to have their problems cured. They go to therapists so that they can have another person who is considered to be an expert who validates how they feel and validates their problems and says to them, yeah, I understand, that must really be hard. Okay, they're looking for someone to give them permission to have the problem and to be stuck in that place. What I've found is that when doing consulting for people in businesses, is that more than just the advice of what to do, way beyond all of that, because the advice and what to do really isn't the important part. What the other person needs, what the customer needs, is someone to help them get into action, and someone to specifically request that they take action and then hold them accountable for their action. So consulting and doing consultations for clients is much more about getting the customer to take action, getting your client into action and holding them accountable than it is about saying a bunch of stuff to them and giving them a bunch of advice. Oftentimes, they only need one piece of advice. They just need one simple thing, and then to go out and do that one simple thing, and it'll fix their problem. So think about where they're at though, right? If you've got someone who is having a problem in their relationship and they've been fighting with their spouse, and they're kind of coming to this realization that, wow, this is a really chronic problem and I don't know what to do. They're in a place where they're blaming their spouse for it. People drag their spouses into therapy all the time and say, fix this person. And then ultimately they realize, well, it's actually them that has the issue and not the spouse, right? Well, that's where your clients are at as well. That's where your customers and your prospects are at when they come to you. They're idealistic. They've got their problem, but they're blaming it on the outside world. They're not taking responsibility for it. What they really need is someone to listen to all of that stuff. Listen to them talk about how it's not my problem, it's someone else's problem. This other thing is to blame. There was an accident. It wasn't my fault. And then to have someone say, now, how would you like to, have this turn out? What would be the ideal scenario? How valuable would that be? Why is it frustrating to you right now? And how would that frustration and pain be alleviated if you solved this problem? And just talk to me, tell me where you're at, so that they can talk, right? Most of it is just an emotional issue for the most part anyway, whatever the problem is that they're facing or whatever it is that they desire. And hopefully you're working with prospects who have an emotional desire. They're driven by emotion in some way, and they're really seeking a solution like you've learned about in other trainings. But that's what it is. They need to just kind of get it off their chest so that they can build rapport, feel like someone understands them, and then they need to have someone take out the bow and arrow and hit the target, give them a simple, straightforward piece of advice, and then say the all-critical, are you going to do it? Will you do this thing? Will you actually take action? Will you give me your word that you're going to go out and do it right now? Do you follow me? So I'm teaching you this, by the way. All right, if we can zoom out for a second before we get into the how-to and the exercise. I'm teaching this to you because this isn't just about how to do a consultation. This is about how to think like a prospect. This is about how to design your consultation so that it serves the prospect's needs and gets them the result they want, so that you can then go design products, meaning books, audio programs, trainings, webinars, seminars, members areas, however you're going to package up your information in a way that the prospect finds it and goes through this same process. They go through the same process of feeling understood, of feeling like they're in rapport with another person, of feeling like someone gets them, of getting to the point where they realize, the problem is me, I need to take some responsibility here. Oh, there's a simple action step that I can take to, I can put it into place, and if I'll do it consistently, that will solve my problem, or that'll trigger all of the other things that will cause my problem to become solved, and I just need to get into action. And then instead of talking at people and just telling them what you think that they want to hear, or just giving them a bunch of data, you're actually talking from inside of their mind. And when you do it the right way and your prospects start getting results because you've given them simple action steps to take and you've expected them to take action, they get the results and then they say, wow, that's some good stuff, and they come back and buy your other products. So that's why we're really doing this. And I'll tell you, if you will do consultations with your clients, if you'll start doing one paid consultation every single day, or at least a few a week, it will create insights that will blow your mind. And they're insights you can't get without having direct one-to-one communication with another human being. Okay, so I'm really encouraging you to get outside your comfort zone, get out of your idealism of just putting some information on paper and then selling it for a bunch of money, or creating a little video and then having people buy it. You gotta talk to them. If you do 20 of these in a row, 20 days in a row. Start out by doing free 15-minute or 30-minute consultations. Use the methods we've learned about selling to sell one of these 1-hour consultations for $97. Do it every day for 20 days. Take notes about what you learn, and I guarantee you that it will change your perspective on how people work. You will learn about the problems that you're facing. You'll learn about the apathy that people are dealing with. You'll learn about how much that emotional feeling that you have inside of just teach them, give them a lot of value is just an emotional thing and it's not actually what works. And you'll also learn how people are wired, and you'll learn how to create better products that get people to take action. So what I'd like you to do right now is I'd like you to go down below this video and download the exercise. Okay, download the exercise, print it out, pause the video, and then come back once you've got it printed, and we're going to do this exercise together. All right, go print the exercise. Okay, you should be looking at an exercise that looks like this, designing your 1-hour telephone consultation. The best way to learn about your market, get in touch with the emotional and rational fears and desires of your individual prospects, and get paid to do it is by doing live consultations with your customers. Use this exercise to design the key elements of your phone consultation, and then practice doing 1 consultation per day from now on. Remember, your customer will tell you everything you need to know to help them get the result that they want. So as we go through these questions here, I want you to just keep in the back of your mind, your customer will give you all the information and leverage that you need to help them get the result that they want. They have the answers, they just don't know it. So here are some great questions to ask them. And if you do a 1-hour consultation, you should be able to ask these questions and ask clarifying questions for at least 30 minutes. Okay, this should take up at least 30 minutes of the 1-hour consultation. First, how did you get to this point? Tell me your story. So you want to get a little bit of a background. You want to understand the history. Now, it actually doesn't matter so much the history of how the person got to where they are. Okay, in some cases it does. This is to build rapport. This is to build connection. This is to build understanding and to help you relate to the other person so that you can figure out where they're coming from, and in the advice or the knowledge that you give them, or the kind of the homework that you give them to get them into action, you can incorporate what you've learned about their background. You can find commonality. Very helpful. What's your biggest challenge or frustration right now? Okay, this is a marketing question as well as a content question. I always like to ask people, what's your biggest frustration? What's your biggest challenge? And those words, those specific words, are important to use, because they make it okay for your prospect to talk about their frustrations and challenges. And keep asking until you got all of them. So do you have any more challenges? Do you have any more frustrations? And once you've gotten probably 3, 4, 5, that's when it'll taper off. Next, what's your ideal outcome scenario in detail? What you want your prospect to do is you want to get them to paint a picture of what they want their outcome to look like. In many cases, a person hasn't even thought about this. Probably in 60 to 80% of cases, you'll find that the prospect will have to think about it. Okay, your customer will have to say, "Huh, yeah, I haven't thought about that," or they'll talk about it, and you'll hear that they're stumbling around. And you have to challenge them to be very specific. So if someone is having a problem in their relationship, you say, "What's the specific outcome you want?" And they say, "I want to stop fighting." That's not the outcome that they want. They don't want to just stop fighting. They want to have harmony. They want to have a situation where their spouse walks in and they look each other in the eye and they have that feeling of connection. There's a lot more to it. So get them to paint a picture of the specific outcome that they want to achieve. Next, what have you tried so far but it didn't work? And you're going to learn a lot when you ask this question, because you're going to get a temperature read of your market. You're going to learn all the things that your prospects have tried. You're going to learn how savvy and how educated they are, and you're going to learn about the particular person that you're talking to. Now, why is it important to ask them what they've tried so far? Because this is going to tell you how determined they are and how persistent they are and how knowledgeable they are. So if someone comes to you and says, "I've tried everything, I've tried every possible solution," what you're probably going to be able to realize from this is, well, if they've tried everything and it didn't work, it probably means they didn't do it, they didn't stick with it, they didn't implement. If they haven't tried anything so far, that means that they're probably relatively uneducated, so you're going to need to educate them a little bit more. Next question. What have you tried so far and it did work? Very important question, because a lot of times customers, prospects, people have tried things and they worked, but they just stopped doing them. You'll find that in a lot of cases, maybe in more than half of the cases, that your customer is going to tell you something there where they tried something, it worked for them for a little while, but then it stopped working, and so they abandoned it. And that's great, because in the advice that you give them, sometimes it's just holding them accountable to do the thing that already works, and you don't need to introduce anything new into the picture. Next, what motivates you to take action and what demotivates you? This one will be very, very enlightening to you. When you ask other people what motivates them and what demotivates them specifically to take action, okay, what motivates you to take action, what demotivates you to take action, you're going to hear a lot of weird stuff. You're going to hear people saying things like, you know, what motivates me is thinking about my kids not turning out the way I did. Or, I mean, you're going to hear all kinds of crazy stuff. Make sure and write it down when you hear that, because this is what's going to be the fuel when you actually give your advice to your prospect. This is the thing that you're going to tie the result to that actually fires them up and gets them moving. And then finally, I want to really give you the leverage piece here. You want to ask, if you agree to do something on this call, can I count on you to do it? So you want to ask your customer straight up. You want to say, if I ask you to do something, if I make a request that you do something and you agree, will you do it? Will you give me your word that if you agree to do something, you're going to do it? Incredible leverage, incredible leverage. The difference between just saying to someone, here's what you should do, all right, let me know how it turns out, and earlier, before you give the advice, saying, and finally, you know, if I make a request, if I ask you to do something in this consultation, and you agree to do it, will you give me your word that you do it? Will you actually do it? And you know, oftentimes the person will be taken aback a little, and you'll hear them think about it and resist a little, and then they'll say, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And they've had to go through an internal decision-making process. They had to go through a whole cycle inside, a whole emotional wave to get to the point where they say, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Now, when you take all of that and you put it together, you've set yourself up now for a win, and you've set them up for a win as well. Next, on the other side, second part of the exercise, advice and accountability. Most people who are seeking advice don't really need advice. What they need is someone to hold them accountable to taking action. Asking another person to commit to taking a specific action at a specific time can be very powerful when motivating them to implement what they've learned. I'd like to request that you take X action at X time. Will you commit to doing that? Is an example of how you might use this. What 3 simple actions do you want your customer to take, and how can you hold them accountable to take them? Now, before you start doing your consultations, you will probably know the highest leveraged thing that your customer can do. That's the irony of all of this stuff, is you'll probably know the very simple things that they should do. If you deal with people that have problems in their relationship, there's probably like one thing that could take most of the friction out, which is instead of blaming the other person and getting angry at them, for stopping and sharing your emotions about how you feel and taking responsibility for it. You know, whatever it is, there's probably like one technique or 2 techniques or 3 techniques that'll solve any problem. So what are those techniques, and what are the simple action steps that your prospect is going to need to take? And then what I want you to do is get into the mindset of at the end, all the way at the end, after you've listened to your prospect, after you've heard about all their problems, after you understand their scenario, after you understand what motivates them and demotivates them, after you've gotten their word that they'll do what they say they're going to do, then you say, well, you know, based on what you've told me, you said you have this problem and this challenge and frustration, and this is the outcome that you'd like, okay? Building rapport, feeding back, getting leverage. Then you say, I'd like to recommend one technique to you, okay? And I'd like to give you a couple of action steps here. And then explain what the technique is, explain what the action steps, and then say, if you will do this, I believe that you will get the outcome that you want. Do you remember when I said what motivates you to take action and what demotivates you? Do you remember when I said to ask that question? You want to tie that in here. So if the thing that motivated the prospect to take action was their kids not turning out like them, you want to say at that moment, if you will take these action steps and you will use this technique, I believe that it will get you to the point where you won't have to be afraid of your kids turning out like that negative you that you see. Okay, that's where you use that high leverage point. And then you bring in the hammer. You ask, will you agree to do this action at this particular time? Will you give me your word that you will do it? And again, the prospect might have to go through their whole cycle, and you might have to talk to them a little bit. Don't let them say, well, maybe. you have to close them on this one for their own good. Okay, you have to step up and be an advocate for them, and you have to say, no, will you agree to take this action step at this particular time? And then when they say, yes, I will do it, then say to them, congratulations, I'm really proud of you. That was huge. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to honor your word, and I want you to take that action step, and I want you to do the thing that you committed to doing. Now, if you'll use this little framework for your 1 hour consultation, I think you will find that not only will people buy consultations from you, but they'll want to buy several from you. Okay, this is the kind of thing that can lead to you doing 3 or 7 or 10 or 20 or a whole year's worth of them with someone, because it's not about just giving a bunch of ideas. This is about action. It's about simple ideas, simple advice, but getting the person to take action. But it will also teach you what it takes to get people to take action, and it'll teach you how you need to communicate with others inside of your information products, in your seminars, in your audio programs, in your video programs. There's nothing as powerful as working with people one-on-one to learn about their motivations, their desires, to learn about what gets them to take action, what gets them to not take action, and to just get inside their world so that you're talking from inside their head. So take this format, and I'd like you to start doing 1 hour, $97 consultations. Start doing one of them every single day from now on, and get inside the customer's head. Learn about their motivations. Write down all their answers. Find their commonalities. Figure out what it takes to get them into action. Find what works and find what doesn't. And then once you're getting good at it, once you've got the hang of it, and once this is running like clockwork, take all the things you learned and package those up into a book. Package those up into a teleseminar. Package those up into a webinar or a live seminar. Package them up into a video program. Turn what you learn from these consultations and from interviewing your customers into an information product. And when you do that, you'll find that it works, just flows in perfectly with their reality, connects with them, allows them to connect with the information, and gets them to take action, and then, very importantly, gets them to come back and buy more of your stuff. So get into action now. Design your 1 hour telephone consultation and start doing them every day. And I will talk to you again soon.